Sunday afternoon, the Bills in unfamiliar territory as they're on the road during the wild card round for the first time since 2019. New on NFL Live, Bills quarterback Josh Allen spoke today about learning from the mistakes he's made this season.
Points are at a premium. Being okay with living in, taking some easy ones. Joe kind of had me self-scout myself throughout the year this last week. And I came away obviously just like, God, there's so much out there that I've missed. There's still so much room to improve. And I think I just have this extra emphasis, like I said, on points are at a premium in the playoffs and just trying to do everything I can to give us points.
Field, what's going to be the key for Josh Allen in this Buffalo offense?
I think I'm going to make up a new term here. This Bills offense has to at least tie in the running game on Sunday afternoon. What I mean by that is it's the best run defense in the NFL. Jacksonville's is period, full stop. It's unlikely for Buffalo to drop 150 yards on them on the ground. But they also can't have 45 rushing yards and have to rely on the playmakers in the passing game because none of them have made it into Wideout Wednesday this year, and that's not a coincidence. They just lack difference makers. So if they can't run the football, Josh Allen is as equipped as any quarterback to be Superman. That's not the formula I want to rely upon going into just your first playoff game of potentially 4.
Staying in the AFC East, also new on NFL Live, Mike Vrabel's been around New England long enough to know that making the postseason is not enough.
I'm happy, I'm excited, but also we're not here just to, get here. We have to, be able to host games and compete for championships. So there's not going to be any consolation prize for anybody. We understand what we have to do.
Dan, as great as Drake May's been this year, why might this week be different?
Yeah, this is one of the best defenses in football defending the deep ball. I mean, that's one of the key cogs in New England's offense is their willingness to chuck the ball downfield, whether it's matchup created, play action shot created. Drake May's become one of the, if not the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. This Chargers defense, one, just structure-wise, doesn't give you a ton of chances to do it. And then two, when you do it, you don't do it very well. Who wins out in this game? I think this is a fascinating matchup. Chargers defense when it comes to the way they can cover versus New England's pass game and how much they want to push the football downfield. Who wins out?
In the NFC, Davante Adams missed 3 games this season. Rams lost 2 of those 3, and they threw 3 interceptions in those games compared to just 5 in the 14 games Adams played. Also struggled in the red zone without him, scoring on less than half of their red zone trips. Matthew Stafford talked about the importance of Davante Adams.
Just dominate the opposing defenses, the DBs, make great plays, do all these things, but he's just a great teammate. And that's happened through early season when maybe I wasn't getting him, the ball in some good spots, and we struggled to hit a few things early in the season to where he was, absolutely dominating people in the red zone. And then just watching him handle all of that, as a human being, but also as a teammate and how he has affected our team in a positive way in all of those phases is really cool and unique, and it just goes to goes to show you what kind of person he is and what kind of player he is.
And he loves throwing to Davante Adams when they get in close toward that goal line. What makes their connection so special?
So much. Now, look, there's been a lot of conversation around the +5 touchdown passes that Matt Stafford has thrown specifically to Davante Adams, but it really is special because it's beating all the metrics. Analytics people will say this doesn't make sense why it's so successful. I'm trying to think of a cool name like Tush Push. Maybe Lob City is what I'm landing on.
I like
but
that.
Look at the placement of this ball. So it's not just a matter of just throwing it up. These are 50-50 balls most times. But Davante Adams is so great off the line of scrimmage, and the placement that Matt Stafford puts it, it's not a defense or offense. It's either a touchdown or an incompletion. But in most times, it's a touchdown because they're both so special. Here you're going to see Davante Adams get a good release, but he's going to get to full speed in an over-the-shoulder throw at the sideline, middle of the end zone. This is incredible ball placement. Statistically, a broken play is a more effective play in the goal line than a goal line fade. In the 2010s, there's only one receiver who was effective 50% or more, and that was Megatron. What's the common denominator? Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
His ability to place that ball with Davante Adams make them extremely special.
Man, if I could share some text messages.
What the heck is that supposed to
We're
mean?
going to get into that during the break.
What is going on, Dan?
Dano, what should Vic Fangio and the Eagles defense game plan be against McCaffrey?
I don't know. I think that's the challenge. Fangio's great, and that's why we wanted to use that Luke clip, because I thought it was interesting to hear Luke. What he said, and Field was with me, was I would rather be, as a linebacker, closer to him than further from him. And so it just was interesting to hear him talk about the fear of being too far away from McCaffrey in the pass game, because he said, listen, if I'm too far away from him and he makes the catch, that's the worst place I can be because he's so good. And so it'll be interesting to watch Philadelphia plan-wise with Vic Fangio, their defense coordinator. Who does he deploy to tackle him or to cover him? And remember, Philly certainly is like a zone-centric defense, but once again, it's that match where that person from an offensive perspective, you get close to the defender, it becomes a man type of concept. So is it going to be Nakobe Dean? Is it going to be Cooper DeJean? Because if you have Cooper DeJean do it, is it going to be Jahad Campbell? Because if Cooper DeJean covers him, then who covers Kittle?
Right.
I just think that's the presentation that would just be very interesting to watch. They covered James Cook a couple weeks ago, who's a good pass catching back. He's not Christian, with Campbell a lot. I want to see if they do that with McCaffrey.
And I think, to your point, what I'm looking at is Ricky Pearsall, whether he plays or not, because I think this is paramount for the 49ers, because if he's not in the lineup, it makes that job a lot easier for Vic Fangio. Now, with Ricky out, you got Jennings, yes, you have Bourne, they're more physical, 50-50 catch ball guys, but you don't have a separator. You don't have a man beater, a guy that can get down the field, flip his hips, get out, and provide these really clear throws for your quarterback. You saw them struggle against the Seahawks because they did not have this element. They didn't have this element where things didn't need to be perfect execution. You see them off the line. You see free releases against cover 2, which puts this safety in turmoil, wide and create a window.
That's a great route.
Find a seam for this quarterback to have really easy throws. And we talked about this with Pearsall earlier in the season. His ability to get into breaks and get out of breaks with speed. He almost loses no speed, and this makes it no thinking for Brock Purdy. Without that in the lineup, it just makes it hard. It makes them have perfect execution. It makes those margin of errors for those throws a lot smaller, and it makes it easier on Vic Fangio to just smother this offense.
The Niners need to be able to run the football, have some sort of balance on offense on Sunday afternoon. This past weekend, they were totally suffocated by Seattle, and it felt like the offense was on the field for 15 minutes the entire game. Seattle was able to completely control the clock in that game, and you can imagine that Philadelphia, despite all of their offensive struggles, is going to want to be able to run the football as well. San Francisco is just not good enough defensively to keep a team, even one with as much of an identity crisis as we saw from Philadelphia, off the scoreboard this year. But last week, the 49ers could not block the Seahawks. And the Seahawks, like the Eagles, have the ability to attack you with just 4 men up front. This is a gigantic challenge for San Francisco to handle this Philly front, which was good already. But since Jalen Phillips arrived via trade, has been unlocked to a whole nother level.
I think Carter, too. Jalen Carter against Buffalo looked like
player.
he did last year.
I think he just consistently goes out there and performs at a high level. I know as an offense, there's been some high moments and some not so great moments, but I don't think that can all be attributed to our quarterback. I think it was really everybody.
Field, what do you want to see from Jordan Love in this Packers offense in this game?
I want to see him belly the ball, and I want to see him attack the Bears down the field, because he's going to get a couple of opportunities throughout the course of this game where he's going to get man coverage down the field. He's going to have an opportunity to throw the football to Christian Watson. Dennis Allen, the Bears defensive coordinator, understands that his defense simply isn't good enough up front rushing the passer to just rely upon guys creating their own pressure. Sometimes it's going to have to be an extra body from the second or the third level. There's going to be opportunities for Jordan Love to take a shot down the field, and Christian Watson, since his return from that torn ACL, I believe has played the best football of his career, Graz. I think this is a guy that could be one of the difference makers on Saturday night. I cannot wait for the rubber match. Anytime you play a team 3 times in one season, you're bound to see a lot of the stuff that you have seen already, but perhaps more interestingly, a couple of the curveballs that have not yet been put on tape.
3rd time they've played in 6 weeks.
Unbelievable.
They play each other every other week. So they split the first 2. Obviously, much more at stake in this one this weekend. Yesterday afternoon, his agent Brian Harlan said he received calls from 7 NFL teams expressing interest in his client. Now, there are currently 7 head coach openings, but one of them is Baltimore's, and we have to assume that was not one of the 7 teams that called. So that's interesting math, including the Ravens. There are 7, as I said. 5 of those teams will pick in the top 6 of the 2026 NFL draft, as they all finished 5-12 or worse. The Falcons don't have a first rounder this year. They finished 8-9 and lost the NFC South on a 3-team tiebreaker. So again, 7 new openings for head coaching spots. That includes Baltimore. Shefty says teams have called. That includes at least one, Jeff, who currently has a head coach. What do we know about that?
Well, Dan, that's causing everybody to basically call every team in the NFL to say, is it you? Is it you? So I can tell you a few teams that it is not, one of which is the Miami Dolphins. And that's probably the most important one to point out right now, because obviously a lot of speculation in that regard. I've spoken to people I deeply trust, and they have told me within the organization, several people have said they have not reached out to Harbaugh or his camp. That I've also been assured that on the other side of things with somebody who knows Harbaugh well, that is not the case. Now, I'm not saying that something couldn't change there, but as of right now, I truly do believe that the Dolphins have not done that. Another team, by the way, that people have speculated in Florida, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I have also heard that they have not reached out about Harbaugh either. So for now, we'll focus on the teams that do have openings. That of the Giants is one that's a very clear, in my opinion, based on my conversations, someone we should be watching. But one last point for you here. I've also heard that Harbaugh does want to sit back for a second, take his time, collect his thoughts. I would not expect this to suddenly be one day he's the coach of the Ravens and the next day he's the coach elsewhere. This is going to take some time.
Yeah, and fair enough. I mean, the game against the Steelers was 3 days ago. He was expecting and hoping, obviously, to still be planning for a playoff game at this point. So, yes, take your time, John. I'm sure plenty of teams will be happy
waiting
to wait. Which spot do you think makes the most sense?
Jeff just mentioned the Giants as being the team that most people have speculated could be a fit for John Harbaugh. I think it's the right fit, by the way, as well. You've got a young quarterback in place with Jackson Dart. The defense way underperformed relative to the front 7 talent. On top of that, John Harbaugh, for those that don't recall, because he's been a head coach for so long, arrived, as Hawk mentioned, he was a special teams coordinator, right? Yep. This isn't some guy who wants to go to a team where he gets to fix the offense to his liking or he's going to take over the defense. He's kind of the CEO head coach, right? I think on top of that, and this is not to take anything away from other organizations. Graz, you covered them for a long time. The Giants organization has gravitas within the league.
It does.
People want to be the New York Giants head coach because they want to bring a very storied franchise back to where they believe it belongs. It's an ownership group that has for a long time been very loyal to employees. I think the Giants have a lot of appeal to any head coaching candidate. Wouldn't surprise me if that's the case with John Harbaugh.
Giants and Atlanta are the 2 best. The difference is one has the quarterback, one doesn't. One has the better talent, one has lesser talent. One has a general manager, one doesn't. I think that's the really interesting with the Giants because you're John Harbaugh. You want to go to the Giants. What happens if we stink and you want to fire the general manager? What's the next step?
I think that's part of the conversation before any job with the Giants.
But that's an awkward conversation. And who does that conversation happen with?
He has all the leverage. But John Harbaugh right now says, if you want me, you play on my terms. That's the kind of leverage I think he has right now. So
you're saying
teams.
He goes to the Mara family and saying, I'll become your head coach, but I want to bring the general manager that I want with me?
Or he says, hey, I'll give this a try, but if at some point I deem this not the right fit, just a heads up, it's me that's staying, not him.
But I think that's very interesting. I think that's a very interesting. Because what happens if the Mara family says no?
They're not going to get the number 1 head coach.
And I think that goes into it for that reason, because when we talked in the first block about Harbaugh, his resume, obviously him being such an attractive candidate, this is something that he's earned. It's not like him holding anybody hostage. It's like, hey, this resume provides this opportunity for me to tell you, in order for this to work, this is what needs to be in place or not in place. Because Atlanta, to your point, Dan, which is what I'm looking at, they don't have a GM. Not only that, he'll attract top coordinators because of the style he is, the way that he's able to lead, the way he's able to get the most out of his roster. And his background as a special teams coordinator is the reason why he's such an effective leader, because a special teams coordinator in the NFL deals with the top of the roster and the bottom of the roster, and they have to get the best out of all of those. Whereas an offensive or a defensive guy, you see the side of the ball where they have the most effect.
To Dan's point and question about the GM and sort of the sensitivity there, I think if this were a different set of circumstances surrounding the GM, maybe the conversation is different. But to be clear, this is a GM who has been on thin ice now since basically last off season, right? The Giants had to announce in successive years that he was sticking around, right? So, however, whatever you think of Joe Schoen and the job he has done, it's clear that if a coach gets hired, especially a coach with as much leverage as we know John Harbaugh has, 7 teams, according to Shefty, are already interested. It's going to be his way, or he's going to be coaching in Atlanta or Tennessee or somewhere else besides the New York Giants.
Jeff, you had something?
Well, just quick bit of precedent. We just have to look to last year in Jacksonville. Liam Cohen went and interviewed. Trent Baalke was the GM. The team supported Trent Baalke, said he would continue as the GM. Liam Cohen said otherwise. Poof, Trent Baalke was gone. So it can happen, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. He holds the leverage.